What place gets creepy when you're alone? The subway. When it's packed with people, it's fine. You are just rushing with the rest of the crowd to catch the train. But when you are alone and every sound is bouncing off the walls, that's so creepy. The artificial lights don't feel as unnatural as they do when you are alone. You find yourself yearning for the sun or the stars or anything real. A small cloud of fireflies would be better than the hum of overhead artificial lights. Even the air smells stale down there. It feels like a tomb but with a train ready to take you on the way out. The library. I work in a big 60-year-old academic library. I have recently started using my office from time to time with everyone else still working from home. I am ashamed to say I turned all of the lights on the floor on while I was there. The bathrooms are the creepiest. They haven't ever been updated and have a real 1960s feel. My basement looks like it should be the set for a Hostel type movie. Worst of all, my dad bought some old barber chairs he's going to restore someday. So this room that already looks like a torture chamber now has 2 beat up barber chairs in it. Public toilets at 4 AM. There's a stretch of road in my hometown where a few teenagers have died in car accidents. 3 kids on 2 separate occasions in the same spot. There are few street lights and wooded lots surrounding it. That stretch of road is very creepy at 1 in the morning when you're alone in the car. Hotel. I work at a hotel. And actually one time in a dozen years of me working there was one day we had absolutely no guests in house. I did not like that. One bit. I hated being in that huge building all by myself. Below ground levels of a hospital. Roller rink. I used to work at a roller hockey facility and often closed the place alone. The sound still traveled and it sounded like I was being followed. My house when I've been watching conspiracy theories for hours. Practically any room in my house after I watch a horror movie. The parking lot when you leave work late at night. Night hikes. People who go alone scare me. Midway up the basement stairs after turning the lights off at the bottom. Dark roads in the middle of the night. Gas stations at 3 AM. Especially ones that are in the middle of nowhere. Any theater. You never want to be the last person in a dark theater. The ghost light can only ward away so much. Rest stops after dark. It feels like you've entered a place where multiple dimensions touch or something. Everyone you come across, if you even do, are all wanderers that you'll most likely never see again. The house I grew up in. Short story. After my childhood home was sold, it was a big deal for me to be the last person of my family to sleep in it. Childish, I know. I invited my next door childhood friends to spend the last night there and they hung out for a while and then bailed. I asked, aren't you going to stay? And they both said, nah man, your house has always given me the creeps. I stayed for about 15 minutes after they left and finally bailed. For some reason that basic single-story suburbanite home was extremely creepy. My house is actually in the middle of nowhere. It gets too quiet sometimes. Plus my house has bad history. The woods near my apartment complex at night. Rural highways in the middle of the night. Edit roads not highways lol. Everywhere. Imagining being in like New York and there is absolutely nobody. That would be creepy as hell. I worked on a science lab in an old university, and the 19th century basement hallways with all the lights off are from a terror movie. The flickering lights in the stairs at the end of the hallway did not make it any better. Anywhere if you're paranoid enough. Any old New England cemetery after dark. Hospitals. I was in a hospital for an extant period of time and the amount of moans, beeps and casual shuffling you can hear is scary as hell. Amusement parks. Just imagine yourself with no one to even turn on the rides. Anywhere that's very dark. You are never afraid of being alone in the dark. You are afraid of not being alone in the dark. Playgrounds at night. I had to pass one walking home from work sometimes and it's creepy as hell. I went to visit a concentration camp in Poland once because my great-grandma had been killed there and it was a kind of family history bucket list thing. It's not one of the more well-known ones. but it is incredibly well preserved. It was a grey, foggy day and I was the only person in the entire place. I expected to be emotional, but I didn't expect to be afraid. You know when you're a kid, or heck, I get this sometimes even now, and you have to venture out of your bedroom in the dark to go to the bathroom or whatever, and you know there's nothing there, but when you're done doing whatever it is you're doing, you can't help but sprint back to the safety of your bedroom. It felt like that. I had to physically fight the instinct to run. Any long hallway lit with fluorescent lights after dark. All places become creepy when alone. Your imagination makes sure of it. There's this one place near where I live called Corpsewood. The stories of the place are very bizarre and a little creepy. First comes the story of a gay couple, 2 men, living in a large house in this area. Not necessarily the middle of nowhere but surrounded by woods. This couple was murdered in their house later in their years of living there, not sure how many. The place was then claimed to be one of the most haunted areas of our region. But wait, there's more. After these events there was a cult that moved into the Corpsewood area. The cops knew of their activity, but didn't do anything about it because there weren't any reports of anyone being harmed. Thought they were rebellious at summit. Later on the cops were called to the place and found the cult members, about 100 strong, had committed a mass suicide. This skyrocketed the insane supernatural backing on the area. I've never been there myself, but the stories I've heard have given me chills. TLDR, gay couple murdered in a mansion and a cult kills themselves for whatever creepy reason. Random gas stations at night. Hospital. It's always creepy there, even if you are not alone. Fun fact. People tend to find places more creepy if they are alone in a place where there are usually a lot of people. Think shopping centers, malls, or schools, abandoned city streets, or hospitals. They are creepy, right? This is because your monkey brain goes, alert, people equals missing equals danger. People leave? Should we also leave? Bad things scare people away. Are there bad things? TM. It's so funny to me. Bless our hyper anxious subconscious, always on the lookout for demons. Libraries. So many walls of books. You don't know if someone's there. The woods. I used to go hiking quite a lot in the Angeles Crest Forest. Once I got lost in the middle of the day, only for about 20 minutes. Another time I swore I was being watched while walking down a fire road. I also ran over a rattlesnake on my mountain bike, but that was more freaky than scary. A college dorm when there are no students there. Doors open. You walk down the hallway and you can just hear people talking. It's creepy. Everywhere, especially at night. And woman. Parking garages, especially underground ones. I fully expect one day to get in my car with someone hiding in the back seat. My house. Good thing I live with my grandmother, though it's a little weird she's still here, since she died a couple years ago. The neck-mounted sideshow circus I got up there. Movie theater. I used to clean a little 2-screen second-run theater, and that it was creepy. Even with all the lights on, it was still dimly lit in the theaters. And walking through the aisles of seats thinking about the fact that someone could be crouched down hiding in a row. Can someone help me? My posts keep getting removed. Airports. I was once on a flight that was heavily delayed. Arrived at my destination around 3 AM and disembarked into a dark, empty airport that, for some reason, had ABBA's Dancing Queen blasting over the speakers at full volume. Fairly certain I transported to a different plane of existence at that moment. Someone else's bed after a one-night stand. Cornfields and backyards. Large enclosed spaces, with many hiding spots and places for your imagination to put things, like right behind you. An Aboriginal Australian meeting place cultural museum. Places like that get especially creepy when you're aware that not all knowledge is shared with kids and the only things you know about that are hung on the wall are war masks and weapons. That it is the worst when it's quiet and you know you're the only one in there and a chair still scoots a little in the next room. My office. It's nestled in a 50,000 SQFT warehouse. I'm often working late alone. I find it eerily peaceful, until you think you hear someone. I am a woman with a good imagination, so that would be everywhere, especially at night. Honestly, any basement. Something about storage being underground. My bathroom. The door will sometimes slam really loud when no one is in it. I've always blamed it on air pressure because the window is always open when it happens. No joke. Standing in my kitchen at 5 AM alone is the creepiest thing I have experienced in recent memory. Work. When you are working, most jobs are busy and full of people. But when you stay after hours of going before everyone else, it's weird. Maybe it's just me, but I used to always feel a bit creeped out in whatever house I was babysitting in. After the kids had gone to sleep and it was just me in somebody else's silent, empty home. And then one of the kids would come quietly padding out to ask for a glass of water or something and scare me half to death. I was visiting my grandfather in the hospital and me, my younger sister and my cousin were exploring. Decided to take the elevator down to the bottom floor where the morgue is and push my sister out while the elevator doors closed. We went back for her in a few minutes. She was so upset, but everything is forgiven now. She's a registered nurse now and I'm a lousy bartender. I remember I was homeless at one point, sleeping in my van that was parked in a church parking lot. After about 10 PM, it is very quiet there, but there are plenty of lights. This church was, at the time, surrounded by trees, which made it quite peaceful. It wasn't so bad until about 11 PM, when every light in the parking lot shut off, and you can't see hardly anything but the stars. It wasn't just darkness, it was advanced darkness. Your house. For some reason, when I'm home alone and pause whatever I'm doing so there's no more sound, it's kinda eerie. What's even creepier is thinking you're alone when you're actually not. Disney World. Ever imagine being alone in a theme park meant for thousands of people with no music or anything in the background? Incredibly creepy. Theme parks. I used to work in a theme amusement park as security and the overnight shifts when the park was closed were creepy as hell. We still had to patrol the whole place. There were 2 of us on duty at a time. One in the security post and one out walking around. Animals and homeless people would get in and you'd hear strange noises. I especially hated working nights when they were setting up for Halloween and turned areas of the park into habited mazes. I remember one time I had to respond to a fire alarm in one of the mazes long after the park is closed and everyone had gone home. They had forgotten to turn the automatic parts of the scare maze off, and when the fire alarm system came back on like it was supposed to, the motion of the effects and the smoke machines set it off. I had to walk the entirety of the maze while all the scary things were active just to make sure there wasn't actually a fire. Another night I worked while they were in the process of putting out all the scary effects. While I was patrolling I noticed they had got a lot of work done during the day and there were lots of things out that hadn't been there the night before. I turned a corner and heard a blood-curdling scream and saw something twitching like crazy. I nearly ate myself. Turns out, they had installed an animatronic person in an electric chair that was either motion or sound activated, and I set it off all alone in the middle of the night. My house when I see a person with a mask, glasses and hoodie ringing the bell. Kitchen at 3 AM. I just wanted water. Old, abandoned factories. An empty and unused floor in an office building. My basement. That's why I always have at least one kid down there. After I watched an episode of Goosebumps growing up in the 90s, the kid finds the librarian alone in his office eating a tarantula. I was terrified to be alone at places of business like the library or the doctors. And then my mom told me a family friend, when he was young, was forgotten at the doctor's office, and that further terrified me. This really shouldn't be creepy, but it is to me. At the gym at 3 in the morning. It's unsettling being alone in such a big place. Anyone with a code can walk in, and I bet a code isn't difficult to guess. I walked home through town at 2 AM one night years ago. Single stoplight, gas station, abandoned restaurant. It's dark, abandoned, and all of a sudden the plastic behind the restaurant starts flapping, and every noise in town sounded off, I guess would be the best explanation. Scared the ever living it out of me. I don't think I could ever recreate that situation and fear if I tried. Abandoned amusement parks. It's creepier when it's dark. In Colorado, there's this road called Riverdale Road that has a bunch of spooky stories behind it. Everything from ancient Indians being slaughtered by progressing colonists, witches hanging themselves in fear of being lynched, and the ghost of a blue Mustang that entices people to race it, then runs them off the road at over 100 miles per hour. Usually I don't buy into the ghost stories, but sometimes when I'm driving down that road at like 1 AM, I find myself thinking something along the lines of haha, yay, but what if? Schools, any unused levels of hospitals, roads in the middle of nowhere, your mind. Night diving for lobster, starting from shore. I haven't seen someone comment this, but a parking lot at night. I don't know what it is about it, but I can't think of very many good surprises that could come in a parking lot at night. New Jersey has one western facing beach that is technically the Delaware Bay but is basically the beach for all intents and purposes. For this reason, it is called Sunset Beach and is meant to be visited and vacated around twilight. I usually stay long after dark for stargazing purposes because it's the only way to get a good view of the western sky in NJ, and oh my god, all the shops close and have their lights off. There are no lights on the beach. There are no street lights. There are no lights in the parking lot. If you don't have a flashlight on you, you are just hit out of luck. A pitch black parking lot is absolutely terrifying. When I went to Washington DC, I flew out alone and had to take the train from Baltimore. It was night and for a time the train platform was completely abandoned. It was creepy as hell. Paths through the woods. There was a paved trail through the woods to get from my apartment to the library. Normally dark woods don't scare me. Dark woods right after reading a manga about fairies? Yeah, duck that it. I may not have a religion, but my family is Irish. You don't duck with dark woods and lonely crossroads at night. A church. Those things are creepy when alone. The trip upstairs after you turn the lights off. Worked as a commercial cleaner, so have a long list. Dentist offices. If they specialize in pediatric dentistry, there's usually props and toys they keep around for teaching kids how to properly brush and floss, etc. Except they're using stuffed animals. Completely normal stuffed animal with massive teeth. Imagine novelty teeth crammed into a teddy bear's mouth, and it's hinged to fully open and show how to brush all the teeth and the tongue. It's literally propped up on a chair in a back office. Churches. Churches are some of the worst because light plays tricks late at night. Not only that, people have a habit of just showing up and opening locked doors. So you can clean an entire area, lock it back up and come past it again and it's fully opened. Church folk suck. Office buildings. Just pitch black and long hallways. And they're not built with much quality, so you hear everything. Warehouses. Just even darker at night and the wind messes with you because of all the empty space. Country clubs. Same problem as churches. People just show up. Co-worker walked in on a couple having sex in the front office. The basements of these places are awful. It's where staff areas, laundry, and utilities are hidden away and it's not well taken care of. So lights are out, doors open one way and lock behind you, and staff open and close stuff on you all the time well after hours. Schools. Just know, long stretches of hallways, dark rooms behind every door, and you hear every echo.